Fans couldn't wait to find out what was in store for them in Chicago PD's upcoming Season 10 until they heard the most shocking news. They were going to say goodbye to a founding member of the show's cast, Jesse Lee Soffer. One of Chicago PD's OG members, Jay Halstead, is leaving the show, and this is definitely going to leave a dent. Let's look at what losing Jesse will mean for Chicago PD's upcoming season. To start with, Upstead's future is now in trouble. A big part of what keeps TV shows going are the ships and their fandoms. Shipping two people in a show is what brings so many people together. This is also one of those things that drives people to recommend shows to their friends in the first place. When it comes to Chicago PD, Upstead is the most powerful and binding ship. Jay Halstead and Haley Upton as a couple is an image that the show's fans have been seeing for a really long time, so it makes sense why fans are now worried this ship will have to sink now that Jesse Soffer is leaving permanently. Since Jesse Lee Soffer left, it doesn't seem likely that they'll keep Upstead alive, only to have to sink the ship later. Behind the scenes at Chicago PD, they think it's best just to rip the band-aid off and get it over with. Once the pain is gone, everyone can move on. If these expectations are met though, it's bad news for Upstead in the police drama, because they'll have to end the relationship quickly so that Haley and the fans can have the much-needed time to mourn. With this in mind, it seems like the only two possible outcomes are a breakup or an early death. In a perfect world, Chicago PD would learn from Chicago Fire and just let Upstead be happy. But if there's anything that Chicago PD has taught us, it's that we're not living in a perfect world, and sometimes stuff just happens. Coming up, Jesse's absence may leave a confusing hole. Fans were pretty happy when Benjamin Levy Aguilar came back to Chicago PD after he appeared in a big Halstead episode of Season 9. Before there were any signs Halstead was going to leave, it seemed like Aguilar's Officer Torres was finally going to have an even number of cops working for Voight. This meant all the cops would be divided into 3 sets of partners instead of having an odd man out. Sadly though, we were being too ambitious because it looks like Upton, Atwater, Burgess, Ruzek, and Torres will be the only ones left in intelligence. It was pretty clear who was Voight's unofficial second in command, and it definitely wasn't Upton. Even Voight himself thought that Halstead would one day take over. He wasn't the only one though. Fans had been anticipating this inevitable future for too long, but after Halstead's sudden news about leaving, they're very confused. It's obvious that after him, Upton would be the next person to step up, but it'll take us a little more time to get used to it. What's more, the connection may be lost. One Chicago did a good job in developing natural interactions and relationships between characters. Chicago PD and Chicago Med were sort of created because of Voight's appearances on Chicago Fire and also because Will is Jay's brother. There aren't as many cross-show relationships left now that Jay is gone. Trudy Platt from Chicago PD and Randall Mooch McColland from Chicago Fire are married, but because of Trudy's limited screen time, they aren't seen together much. It's not like the performances were having frequent crossovers before, but it has evolved to become less character-driven and more practical. There were so many ways in which Jay and Will could have benefited from brotherly support, but they never appeared in scenes together. Will's brother's departure will likely have some impact, but the question is whether or not Chicago Med will ignore it. One of the people who had a really big role in connecting the One Chicago universe was Jesse Lee Soffer. Him leaving the show means another big chunk of its foundation is just simply cut off. Not only this, it also shows how much larger the show's crossovers have grown to be than any of the characters involved. The crossover events and appearances are necessary because the fans adore them, and because they happen a lot, they're not really as organic as Will and Jay Halstead working together. It's not only about Chicago PD when Jesse Lee Soffer leaves, it's about all of the things he contributed to the entire franchise. Finally, could this mean the end? There's more exciting news for Chicago PD fans. NBC renewed the One Chicago Universe series for 3 more seasons, which will air this year. Some shows that had sort of the same similar renewal deals, like New Amsterdam, have been canceled, but it doesn't look like Chicago PD will be one of them. The ratings for Season 9 of Chicago PD couldn't have been better, and expectations are high for the upcoming events in this show. Even then though, there's no denying that Jesse Lee Soffer had made a lot of people unhappy, so much so that the viewership for this show has actually decreased over time. On the other hand, the show's fans will find a reason to keep watching, even if it's not live, just like they did when Sophia Bush left. The show's international reach and, most of all, the fact that it airs in the last shift on One Chicago Wednesday are also in its favor. So, at the moment, Chicago PD is probably still going to continue. There are only a few months left to find out if this prediction is right and if Jesse Lee Soffer can still come back to the show if he wants to. And now for some other related news you might have missed out on. First up, what we know about Season 5 of The Rookie. After getting hints of new information at San Diego Comic-Con 2022, it's time to talk about everything we know about Season 5 of The Rookie. Tim Bradford and Lucy Chen are finally together. What we're dying to know in Season 5 is whether or not their relationship will become real outside of their undercover roles. Along with ABC's recent announcement of a spin-off based on one of the show's main characters, Firefly star Nathan Fillion has shared an important fact about his character in Season 5 of The Rookie. Alexa Hawley and Terrence Paul Winter, who are the show's executive producers, talked about how the tone of the show has changed a lot since the first season at SDCC 2022. Season 5 of The Rookie will still be about some harder stories, but the plot will have a lot of room to move around and experiment. The cast has only shot a few episodes of the next season, but there are already big changes to the plot. There are still things about the next season that need to be made clear, especially as the excitement for the next season builds. Next up, NBC might abandon 10 p.m. primetime hour for local programming. Variety has confirmed that NBC is thinking about giving local stations the 10 p.m. primetime hour. Sources also say that NBC isn't thinking about this as a way to save money or anything. It could actually just be a way to make the most of its broadcast brand and relationship with affiliates instead of its streaming and cable options. It's important to note that the new talk about a 10 p.m. hour change, which comes right before NBC starts its fall schedule on September 19th, does not affect any new or returning shows that air at that time, at least for now. The earliest that NBC would think about making a change that would give affiliates the 10 o'clock hour would be in the fall of 2023. At that point, decisions would have to be made about what stays, what goes, what moves to an earlier time or another night, and what might work better on NBCU's streaming service Peacock. At the moment, NBC's 10 p.m. shows are all new seasons of Quantum Leap, New Amsterdam, Chicago P.D., and Law & Order: Organized Crime. Lastly, what we expect for Joe Cruz in Chicago Fire Season 11. In Season 10, we saw Cruz going through a lot of trauma and ending up with PTSD. In the end, though, he did seek help, so what's next for him in Season 11? Well, we fully expect Cruz to come back. At least we hope so, because there haven't been any signs showing he won't come back. It's understandable for fans to be a bit unsure since the writing before has been very unpredictable. Cruz still has a lot to do and see. He keeps building up the Slamigan brand. His invention continues to save lives in many situations, and we've seen him go to conventions to try to sell more of them. As he keeps showing that Slamigan is useful, it is likely that he will use it again in some way. Do you think Jay Halstead's leaving will have a major impact on Chicago PD? That's a wrap for this video. Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.